This is Lady Maya. I am here with Kirby Ingles, and this gentleman has so much going on, and he is a phenomenal speaker and advocate for so much, you guys. You don't even understand. I'm sitting up here trying to hold on to my phone because there's so many different things that he has going on. Okay, so the True Success, he has done 13 runs, and he also coaches for BetterUp. That's just minimum, just the top three. So you guys, please welcome Mr. Kirby.
Thank you.
Mr. Kirby.
Hey, how are you?
Good. All right, so this True Success, okay, what is it?
So True Success is really a podcast that I host, and I chose to do that. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine at a conference, and we were talking about, he's like, you need to start a podcast, and he really encouraged me. And I've been kicking around the idea of podcasting for 2 or 3 years, and just never jumped on it. But he finally kind of encouraged me, and I did some brainstorming, and I was like, okay, what can I do this about? What's my big idea that I really want people to take away from it? And it was really the idea of true success. We all have our own definition of success, but sometimes we chase things in life that just, may not be as impactful, and I try to get away from on the podcast the things that we can't take away with us. You can't take the car or the house or the get away from the titles and all the accolades, but really getting down to your true purpose and what you're supposed to do, understanding your strengths and values, chasing your passions, and really just having an impact on the people in your life, and hopefully, have that impact, for several generations to come. And so really, it kind of boils back down to caring for people. Create a ripple effect means care for people. And Mother Teresa is often quoted as saying, like, you can cast a stone in the water and create supple ripple effects, with one stone. And so that's what I just want to create one ripple effect. And I want to understand, and I talk to people about what is that ripple effect that they're having? How are they leaving their fingerprint or their footprint in the sand for the world, and just trying to have an impact in people's lives for the better.
No, and you know what? You're doing it. You're doing it on a bigger scale. It's so funny because a lot of the people that I actually associate with are trying to do that very set thing from other angles and different things like that. But you just took it head on, sir. Head on.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to follow behind because, that riptide is going to destroy me.
Yeah. And that's my personality. So yeah, I'm a high D on the DISC personality system. And it's usually people that, jump in when the fire's going on in the house. They're the ones that, just take all the risk and just go for it. And that's just me. And that's what I try to do. I just, you could gradually build up to something like that, but I just think that, it just needs our attention right now. We need to focus on what's important, and that's our future. And that kind of gets to some of the other things that I do, but I wholeheartedly believe that the future of our nation and our people is knee high right now. There are 4 and 5-year-olds, and impacting those kids, and teaching them and showing them the way forward.
Right. No, for sure. And I mean, you getting a hold of the people that you are getting a hold of is definitely that big ripple. It's going to impact, and you never know what they're going to be able to say to others that you haven't come into contact with. So, like you said, that ripple effect is really going to pass. And we just do. And so, can you tell us about the BetterUp, the coaching?
Yeah, so BetterUp is a company that I work for alongside my other coaching practice that I do. And BetterUp is a company that works with, Fortune 500 companies, startups, people in the financial industry, even educational institutions. And there's a variety of coaching styles in BetterUp, but it all rolls back to an idea called the whole person model. And really, the whole person model, the idea behind the whole person model is that we have these 25 or 26 strengths and resources that we all have, and we all use them, in varying degrees, depending on, and for some, maybe familiar with character strengths. You usually have like 5 that are really dominant in your life and that show up every single day. Well, the idea behind the company, really, in the model of the whole person model, is to help people show up, as their whole selves. So sometimes we use our strengths at home and parenting, with creativity, and structure and different things like that. And maybe we have more, but work, you might show up with purpose. Your leadership skills may show up a little bit more there. Your self-awareness, your relationships, your ability to coach may show up more there. So the idea is to take your strengths and show up to all environments with all your strengths, not just some here and some there, but show up as your whole self. And just to help people, increase performance, increase productivity, increase their impact on the organization, and really just accelerate their growth.
Okay, so you're gonna have to coach me, right?
Yeah.
Because sis is I'm juggling, and a couple balls drop every now and again.
Yeah.
So no, I might need to look into that one for myself. So, well, you know what? And the only reason why I went last with the running is because this one is very dear to my heart as well. And people that are struggling and having the anxieties and the depressions and the suicidal thoughts, as for you running for those veterans and making awareness to that. I
with it. And the reason why I got into that is because of the same reason that you just mentioned. I went, I've been in the Army. I was in the Army for 23 years. And, after I was in what we call the Triangle of Death in Iraq, in 2007. And we lost a lot of guys. And I seen a lot of suicide in the Army over my time. And I had this running thing that I started doing. I went through my own little dark period, and then I'm getting a divorce, and, running kind of helped me get clarity and helped me deal with my anxiety because I was going through court and custody cases and all this other stuff. So running really helped me like reconnect with who I really was, help me center myself, help me get my mind clear, help me focus. And there's just a great group of people that I was running with. That was a very great support network for me that I could just pour myself out to, and that I could trust. And they didn't really give me a whole lot of like advice, but they just listen and be there for me when I needed to be there. And running was a way for us to kind of vent a little bit or ventilate. And so that's what it was. But then, I got to a point where, because I was running, and I'm like, okay. And then I just felt like I need a purpose for this. That running got me through all those hard times. So, and that's when I started ultra running and doing a lot of things, really challenging myself, like how far can I push myself? And then I was like, okay, I'm starting to lose the edge with that a little bit. And I'm like, this needs to have a purpose. And so what I decided to do is I had been affected by, I had a cousin that had committed suicide. I had lots of people that I knew had committed suicide in the military. We'd lost so many people's lives. And I was like, sometimes we just forget about those people, right? Except for the families, they serve and then they're gone. And then the families are just, there. And there's an organization called 22 Too Many. And so I contacted them, and what they do is they'll send you a picture of a soldier that lost their life to suicide or PTSD. And you wear that while you run, and they send you the story. And, I read the story before I go. And then people ask me about that while I'm running, because you're running at a 12-minute mile pace. It's not fast, when you do these long runs, but you have time to entertain and talk. And so they'll ask, so like, hey, thank you for your service. Thank you for representing so-and-so, because they see their name and their picture. But then someone will say, can you tell me about their story? And then you'll tell the story of that person. And so you're sharing that story with other people along this journey that you're going through, and sometimes it feels like, on the first few runs that I did, I really felt like they were there with me. They were pushing me along. So it was very powerful, very spiritual, very emotional for me. helped me kind of get through some of my own stuff that I was going through that I had not unpacked yet, and it just really helped me get to a really better place. And plus, I got to do something for the families because all the medal, the racing bib, and anything else that I got for the race, I sent that, I sent it to the organization and they present it to the family in like a shadow box. And so now they can physically see that their loved one is, their service and their memory is not lost, that we are still carrying their legacy on, and that kind of gets, back to the whole create a ripple effect, have a legacy, establish and impact people's lives. And so if that's the one little thing I can do, like I'm already going to do the run anyway, but if I can impact somebody else's life and, create a double-edged sword, that's what I want to do. And I think the families really do appreciate that. I mean, I've even been invited to come have dinner with those families because they felt so impacted and they're appreciative. I know one family here locally in Springfield, Missouri, they lost their child and then they lost their cousin, both served in the military from suicide. So it's suicide impacted the family twice within a 2-year time frame. For two cousins to take their own life, that was huge, right? It was impactful. So organizations like 22 Too Many and things like that, are huge, right? And for us to continue to remember, and continue to share their legacy, because they did serve, and they did impact our lives as well. So we should continue to remember their families and stuff like that. So.
Wow. You're so right. I mean, not a lot of people really remember, like, yes, there's people on the front lines. There's people here fighting for us, but they're also struggling.
Yeah.
They're also having hard times, and we don't want to forget those people. I try. Don't hold me to it, because sometimes my brain stops working, especially when I leave the house. It's like, okay, I don't know. I see. I'm around one of the bigger Navy bases, so I get the planes making every kind of noise and shaking everything on the windows, and I'm like, oh boy, okay. Look at it as thank you for your service.
Yeah.
I want to appreciate you, and I mean, there's plenty of them just walking around in fatigues and everything. You're like, thank you for your service. Their college is like 5 minutes that way. I love it. And I'm like, I'm so surrounded with it, and I'm so happy, and I'm so proud. If anything that you need me to do to help, I will scream it to the rooftop, sir. I would definitely love to help and give any information or any voices or eyes to see you and your podcast and everything you got going on in the coaching, and I know it's gonna blow up big
Thank you.
time.
I appreciate that.
So
I mean, the biggest thing right now is there's a lot of people hurting right now. I mean, they're stuck at home, and they're and they have a hard time reaching out. And so the best thing is that for people that are sitting at home right now, just reach out and talk to them. Get on Zoom. I mean, Skype, whatever. Google Hangouts. There's so many ways to see their face. And just to have a conversation. And just, it doesn't matter if it's, something that happened 10, 20 years ago, say, hey, remember that time when we did this? And to bring back those, good memories and kind of give them a little pep in their day, and just let them know that, hey, I'm still thinking about you, because we know who those people are, that struggle on a daily basis. So it's not like the signs are invisible, because they are visible. Sometimes we're just so busy in our own lives that we forget to slow down and look at the landscape and say, oh, you know what? I might need to go stop by, obviously with the Corona thing now, but you don't want to go visit a bunch of people, but I might want to check in on so-and-so, or I might want to, give this person a call. Let me shoot them an email or text or something, shoot them a little video, and say something.
Make
and
them laugh.
You can do all kinds of things right now. And it only takes like 30 to 60 seconds, to stop for a minute, right? If they come across your mind throughout the day, just stop. Make a video and send it to them. And I'm telling you, I do that for people's birthdays, and people you should see the reactions I get out of it. Right. I haven't talked to you in 10 years, and I saw on Facebook that it's your birthday. I'll make a video and I'll send it to them in Messenger. And just the reaction I get is amazing. So
you have the gift, sir. You do. You have the gift. I appreciate you so much. Okay. Now, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed the story. Wow. I'm still like reeling in that story that you had told me earlier. Um, but not that I want you to tell a story, but I want to tell you, I want you to tell your feelings on what happened
Mm-hmm.
with you and your mom,
Mm-hmm.
and like how you kind of like felt about that. Just a little.
Yeah. So, I kind of have to tell the story a little bit. Because well, I mean, I was born, I grew up without a father for the most part. I mean, I had three stepdads growing up, and really none of them were a significant part of my life. They went to work, they worked swing shifts, they didn't really participate. Maybe there was that one year, that honeymoon stage where I got a new dad, it's cool, and then all of a sudden you just don't exist anymore. It's almost, they're there and they're present, but you just don't interact or engage anymore. And so my mother ended up telling me, well, I actually asked her when I was about 33 years old. I was like, what happened? What was the situation? Why isn't my father a part of my life? And he hadn't been since conception. And she told me, she said that she went to a party and she participated in drugs and alcohol, and she was part of this drug and alcohol induced sexual assault. And so she ended up getting pregnant, and so she was kind of alienated from her family for a while. And then on the day of my birth, my grandfather decided to show up in my life, and the alienation period for her family was kind of over. And he was that leader that said, okay, this boy needs a father. And I'm the closest thing that he's got. So I'm going to be that for him in his life. And he was very consistent in my life. I had a lot of respect for the guy, just by observing him from a distance. He didn't really like put his arm around me and say, hey kid, you're getting in trouble. But he would say, hey, your mom told me. And then he would say what it was. And I would look up at him and I could see the disappointment on his face. And that's the only conversation we ever had to have, because I just had so much respect for the guy. But I didn't know why. And then my mother told me why when I was about 33 years old. She actually really told me the story. When I asked her, I was like, because I knew when I was about 10 years old, she came to me shortly after my parents' divorce, my first stepfather. And I thought he was my real dad. And she was like, no, honey, he's not your real dad. And she's like, we just changed your last name when you were 2 and we got married, just so you wouldn't feel, different. And so I was like, oh, well, I assumed this whole time that he's my dad. So she's like, you want to know who your father is? And I was like, I said, I don't know right now. I mean, this is enough, And then when I was 33, I was like, I started getting curious, and, I was going through some things in my own life, and I was like, you know what? I really want to know what's going on with the story. She never told me the story, but it was until I was 33 that she actually told me the background to my birth, what happened and what happened immediately thereafter. And all the dots in my life really began to connect. And then I knew at that point, I was like, I wonder how many other kids in the country grew up fatherless, And so I started doing my research. I saw like 1/3 of boys grow up in a home without a father. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then I started seeing all the challenges this country has because of fatherless boys. And, it's just, from the prison rates to suicide to domestic abuse to alcohol to drug abuse to all these different things. I started seeing that. And, I'm really grateful that she told me the story, and, she explained to me what happened. And so I kind of found a renewed purpose to kind of actually start doing this, and working with children that grow up in homes without fathers. That way we can provide a healthy, supportive male role model for these kids and try to change the direction I think our country is probably going. Because, and I don't blame him, a lot of people like, are you upset about your father? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I mean, I don't have any ill will towards anybody at this point. I mean, it is what it is. My purpose is my purpose. I'm here for a reason, and I exist, and all these things happen for a reason, and it's led me to my mission in life right now. And so, and if I ever had a conversation with him, I would. But, I don't know if his father did the same thing to him and his father did the same thing to him. Because if you look at it, our fathers really haven't been a part of our life since the Industrial Revolution. Because fathers left the farm, because we all grew up on these rural areas. Fathers left the farm, moved to the city to get work and make more money. And so fathers were working 9-10 hours a day in the industrial sections of our cities, or even 12 hours a day. And children were left at home without their fathers. And so fathers came out of the home to work. And then eventually, you know, as women's rights started to pick up, women started coming out of the home. And now our children are at home by themselves. And the school's raising them. So you see the catastrophic, you know, so now we have, it's really amazing right now with Corona, the one silver lining is that both parents are back in the home for most kids. And they're a part of their children's lives. So I think we got to figure out the balance of that. But I'm not trying to pit it on one person or the other, but, you know, I think that we have to take a more present approach to being our children's lives, you know, because I'll tell you, even I realized it today, you know, I've been for this scenario for a long time, but doing homeschool, my son, has been very challenging, you know, so it takes a lot of patience. And I'm like, there's this app and there's this website and there's this and there's that. And I'm like, how do the teachers do this with 30 kids? I'm struggling with my 2 little ones. So it's crazy.
It is crazy, right? But you know what? I feel like
it's appreciation for teachers too.
No, yeah, we need to give them way more money. That's for sure. That yeah. I mean, this is why I'm saying this. If you really think about it, teachers are doing 30 kids in a class. They're not making even enough for one.
Right.
One.
Yep.
I'm like, if you take them to the daycare and you spending $230 a week.
Yeah.
For daycare, and they just making maybe $18, maybe $20 an hour, that's not enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of teachers making like $30,000 to $50,000 a year, depending on which state you're in. And so, I can't imagine that. I mean, I can't imagine, you know, living like that. And for what they do, I mean, they're really educating our children. And they're making them into, you know, I would hope, you know, powerful citizens when they get older, because that's what they are. They're helping, you know, grow our children.
On the front lines,
yeah.
time.
And, you know, a lot of us spend, you know, very little time compared to the teachers, because if you think about it, if I work an 8 to 12 hour day, I'm probably only spending about 4 hours with my children. I'm sleeping for the other 8, you know, and so who's spending all their time with my child? And I might get the weekend. So really, they have a huge impact, and I can't appreciate them more than enough. And I think, you know, through all this, you know, we can make the case for teachers right now because of the impact that this has had on families and the education system. And it's funny because I have to tell this, my son got on a video conference with all of his classmates, and the teacher's trying to, you know, so if you think herding cats in kindergarten, you know, that's why I say herding cats in kindergarten. But if you think herding cats is difficult with 30 kids in class, try and do it online with video conferencing. And all of them are wanting to talk at the same time, and the teacher's on one end of the computer trying to keep it under control. And so it's funny to see that once a week, you know, all these kids are so excited to see each other because they haven't all week long, and the teacher's trying to, you know, give everybody a chance to talk. And they got a difficult job because now they got 30 parents calling them. You know, saying, help me educate. What do I got to do this week? I've never done that kind of math before.
Yes,
you know,
that math.
How do I, you know, we've been out of the system for so long. We have no idea. Like, you know, I was pretty amazed. Like, I was talking to my son about life cycle with butterflies and, you know, different things like that. And so it's been really fun to have that conversation right now with him. And so we look outside now, we see the squirrels, and we talk about the life cycles of the squirrels, and it's been an amazing experience. So there's a lot of positive things happening right now, but, you know, there's also a lot of challenges going on.
Of course. But you know what? Whatever challenge you succeed at makes you stronger for the next. Yeah. So you're good to go. You got this down, sir.
Oh, yeah.
You got it down. Especially little kids. Oh, today's little kids? Forget it. I'm done. I'm tapping out because I commend you. I really
Thank
do.
you. I appreciate
you know what? You being a father and being there and actually taking the time out to like learn with them. That's big.
Yeah, I'm just trying to change the DNA of my family. I don't want this to, you know, what happened to me and my father and all the other stuff. I just don't want it to continue. I got to change it. You know, it's that same thing that Dave Ramsey says, you know, if you want to change the dynamics of your family and you want to change your situation, you got to make a change, you know, and he does that with finances, you know, and I'm kind of saying the same thing. If you want to change the outcome of your family, you have to change and you have to get back to focusing on family values. So.
Last word, the strongest word. You said it, sir.
Thank you.
You said it. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to have Mr. Kirby's information in the description below. Please like, share, subscribe, please. And please listen to his podcast. Like, the way he's talking now is what you're going to hear. He's just going to drop all kind of those golden nuggets in his podcast as well. And I mean, you guys, I was floored. Like, I was floored. I was watching it and I was just like, okay, no, I can't wait. I can't. It's too much. But I love it. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me with Lady Maya. Please like, share, subscribe once again. I've had to threaten people this week. So thank you so much, sir. And thank you so much. Live your best life with Lady Maya. You guys have a great one. Stay inside and stay safe and healthy, please. Y'all have a great day, okay?